This is News Central Now, coming to you from News Central live in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Tolulokwe Adeleru Balogun. We begin in South Africa, where the Zulu queen who died last week has been buried in a private ceremony in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province. She was appointed regent of the country's largest ethnic group in March following the death of her husband, King Goodwill Zwelithini. The Queen's death at 65 has triggered a bitter family feud and a power struggle over the succession. The family has dismissed rumors that she was poisoned, but the cause of the Queen's death is yet to be announced by the royal family. The decision on who will now lead the Zulu nation of about 11 million people is yet to be made. Staying in South Africa, the factional battles within the ruling African National Congress spilled over into the parliament on Thursday when President Cyril Ramaphosa was asked about his party's status. Ramaphosa joined a hybrid sitting of the National Assembly in Parliament to respond to questions for oral reply on COVID-19 and vaccines, among others. But instead of dealing with matters at hand, the president was forced to address the issue of the factional battles. Ramaphosa has been caught in a power struggle with ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule, who issued a letter of suspension to the party's president. And now moving to Nigeria and still staying on parliamentary issues, Nigeria's heads of security, defense, and intelligence agencies appeared before the nation's Senate in an effort to reveal ongoing strategies aimed at tackling an escalating insecurity crisis. The service chiefs, accompanied by senior officers from the various security agencies, spent over 4 hours in a closed-door session with lawmakers in the nation's capital, Abuja. Correspondent Amadine Uyi has an update on what transpired during the session.
The service chiefs arrived at the National Assembly in the company of other senior officers. They were ushered into plenary in the presence of lawmakers to give an update on the security situation in the country.
On behalf of all of us, distinguished senators, I want to welcome this team. And let me quickly assure all of you that indeed this Senate, or even the entire National Assembly, is and will remain a partner in progress with you.
The President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawal, thanked the chiefs for the efforts they have put so far and the sacrifices they have made in tackling insecurity.
On behalf of my colleagues, I want to commend our armed forces and other security agencies for fighting the myriad of security challenges across the country. In the process, some have given up their lives, others are maimed. We appreciate what you are doing because we know that you are doing your best with what you have at hand.
After over a 4 hours closed-door session, the President of the Senate disclosed what transpired behind closed doors.
On behalf of all the services, that is Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, Chief of Air Staff, and Director General National Intelligence Agency, NIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, on their plans of containing the present insecurity situation in the country. Thereafter, they answered questions from distinguished senators bordering on security, insurgency, terrorism, kidnapping, and other topical national security matters of interest to the Parliament. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the closed session? Thank you very much.
With the intervention from the Senate, Nigerians will be hoping for a change in the current insecurity crisis. From Abuja, Amadine Uyi, News Central Television.
And staying in Nigeria, an unknown number of university students have been kidnapped in the southeastern state of Abia. The group was reportedly abducted on Wednesday, the same day 29 students seized last month in the northwestern state of Kaduna were released. Authorities say the students of the Abia State University, Uturu, were moving in a minivan when they ran into an armed gang. They were kidnapped alongside other travelers. The State Commissioner for Information, John Kalu, says 2 of the students escaped from the kidnappers while others are still being held at an unknown location. Heavily armed criminal gangs have become an increasing security threat in northwest and central Nigeria, rustling cattle and kidnapping for ransom. Recently, they've turned their focus to rural schools and universities where they abduct students. Almost 40 students kidnapped by gunmen from the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization in Kaduna State in northwest Nigeria were freed after spending nearly 2 months in captivity. Their abduction is just one of a series of mass kidnappings to hit schools in Nigeria since late last year.
It is freedom at last for the remaining 29 students of the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization, Kaduna State, after they were released on Wednesday. It has been 55 days of agony, horror, and pains for these students who were in the captivity of bandits. In the early hours of March 11, gunmen had invaded the institution and abducted 39 students. Allegedly, over 200 students and staffs would have been captured. But a student who sighted the bandits raised an alarm, while soldiers in the area promptly responded to a distress call and engaged the bandits in a gunfight. Before their release, the bandits had released videos in which they had made some demands and threatened to kill the students.
My name is Benson Emmanuel. Please, we are begging on our parents, please, who might help us out of here. We've stayed here for days. We have not been eating. Most of us have been sick.
My name is Yahaya Paul. I'm from Federal Forestry and Mechanization. Please, we are calling on our parents to help us, to come and take us out of here. They should try their possible best.
Amid heightened calls for their release by the parents of the victims.
I don't feel talk with my boy. I don't feel look at help us. I beg just help us. Help us.
The abductors had demanded 500 million naira ransom from the Kaduna State governor, but Governor Nasir El-Rufai ruled out the option of negotiation, saying the government will not be compelled to abandon its no ransom, no negotiation policy. Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Kaduna State, Samuel Aruwan.
Students of Federal College of Forestry Mechanization are here with us. Like you know, they need to undergo a thorough medical examination. But by the special grace of God, we will meet you tomorrow, Thursday, for a detailed briefing.
The students were later released in 3 batches in a space of 1 month, 5 on April the 5th, 5 on April 8th, and 29 on March 5th. Meanwhile, students of Greenfield University in Kaduna are still in captivity. Kaduna Police PRO Mohammed Jalinge says the students underwent a routine medical checkup and will be handed over to their parents.
In East Africa, authorities in Kenya will today launch the first ever national wildlife census. The exercise will be officially launched in eastern Kenya at Shimba Hills National Reserve. The Kenya Wildlife Service says the National Wildlife Census is aimed at finding out the true and total number of wildlife and how they are distributed. It says the exercise will also determine wildlife population trends over time and identify threats to wildlife conservation. The Kenya Wildlife Service and the Wildlife Research and Training Institute, an independent institution that undertakes research on wildlife conservation and management, will be involved. Kenya is home to several wildlife parks and reserves distributed in various parts of the country. The judges of the International Criminal Court on Thursday sentenced Dominic Ongwen, a former commander of Uganda's Lord's Resistance Army, LRA, to 25 years of imprisonment. Owen was sentenced for war crimes and crimes against humanity. The decision by the trial chamber of the Hague-based ICC followed a judgment at the beginning of February in which the former military commander was found guilty of a total of 61 crimes comprising crimes against humanity and war crimes committed during the long-lasting civil war in Uganda. The crimes are related to attacks against the civilian population in the northern part of the country between July 1st, 2002 and December 31st, 2005. Presiding Judge Bertram Schmitz called Owen a perpetrator who willfully and lucidly brought tremendous suffering upon his victims. And now in North Africa, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has signed an agreement with the Libyan Ministry of Water Resources to extend their collaboration in the Water, Sanitation and Hygiene WASH project. The UN agency says its support for the North African country also includes emergency assistance for COVID-19 response. It adds that it will play a part in Libya's efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, especially ensuring its ability to get access to clean and safe water by 2030. In the past 10 years, Libyans have been plagued by political and economic woes caused by a civil war, as many parts of the country lack basic infrastructure to provide safe water to their citizens. Coming up on the news, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control records 28 new COVID infections. We'll have details when we come back. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, registered 28 new COVID-19 infections in 5 states and the Federal Capital Territory in the last 24 hours. This brings the country's COVID-19 total cases to 165,301 since the tracking of the pandemic began on February 27, 2020. The NCDC says 10 of the new cases were recorded in Lagos, 7 in Rivers, 6 in Akwa Ibom, 2 in Delta and the FCT, and 1 in Kaduna. The agency says so far 155,424 people in Nigeria have recovered from the virus. It adds that in the last 24 hours, no new death was recorded from the coronavirus. And we move straight now into World Wrap. Police say a girl reported to be about 12 years old shot and wounded 2 other students and a member of staff at a school in the U.S. state of Idaho. The unnamed pupil, who is in the 6th grade, brought a gun to Rigby Middle School in the city of the same name and opened fire. Officials say the 3 victims are expected to survive. Authorities say a female teacher managed to disarm the girl and detained her until police took her into custody. The motive for the shooting is not yet clear. Jefferson County Sheriff Steve Anderson says the girl fired multiple rounds inside of the school and outside. Australia will resume repatriation flights for some citizens in India after a controversial ban on arrivals from the country ends on May the 15th. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has faced criticism for failing to help citizens trapped in the COVID-ravaged Asian nation. The ban sparked further anger after the government said Australians seeking to fly home could face jail or fines. Morrison later played down the threat. On Friday, he said they would begin by bringing back vulnerable citizens. About 900 Australians are registered with the government in this group. Morrison said he expects the travel ban to end on May the 15th. The latest statistics obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria show foreign direct investment dipped by 33.3%, which amounted to $30 million in January. According to figures obtained from the CBN's January report on capital importation and capital outflow, the FDI at $90 million in December fell to $60 million in January. The report added that in terms of capital importation by nature of investments, banking accounted for 39.6%, while shares accounted for 31.5%, production, manufacturing 12.8%, telecommunications 6.1%, financing 6%, and agriculture 4%. Now joining me to look into these issues around FDI is financial analyst and the CEO of Asher Dynamic Solutions, Mukhtar Mohammed. Mukhtar, good morning and thank you for joining us on New Central Now.
Thank you, Tulu. It's always my pleasure to be here.
So we're seeing other countries report a rise in the foreign direct investment in January, but for Nigeria, there was an actual decline. Do we know what is accountable for this?
Well, definitely the exchange rate is still a big challenge. That is basically what is accountable for that for now, because we've not been able to unify the exchange rate, and the difference between the parallel market and the import-export market and the banking, the difference are more, because when you're looking at the secondary market, you have about 480. Then you're looking at the import-export window, you have about 420. You look at the CBN exchange rate, it's about 410. So the disparity is very wide. I think that is majorly why we are not attracting those type of investment, because they want stability in your exchange rate before they want to invest in your country.
All right. So if they want stability in the exchange rate before they can invest, how then does Nigeria get that stability? Because it looks like the stability will then improve the FDI.
Well, that stability has to do with a lot of factors, macroeconomic factors, and some of these factors are not factors that will easily come to play anytime soon. And so that's why you see what the CBN is doing now at the moment is trying to make sure that they use the administrative style to attract diaspora remittance first and foremost, because if you're able to attract diaspora remittance, then it will reduce the impact of not having foreign direct investment. And that's why you're seeing the incentive we are seeing in the diaspora remittance to the government.
Hello, Mukhtar. All right, so I think we may have lost connection with Mukhtar Mohammed there. He's a financial analyst and the CEO of Asher Dynamic Solutions. And taking a look, okay, let's see if he's back. Mukhtar, are you back with me? Unfortunately not. So we're taking a look at reports that Nigeria has actually lost more FDI since January. In the January report that just came out from the CBN, FDI into Nigeria declined by about $30 million. And that, of course, might be affecting investment. So taking a look at what Nigeria can do to, of course, increase FDI remittances. Mukhtar, before I let you go, we saw an incentive program from the CBN, which was saying that for every $1 that comes in through legal and official channels, you would receive 5 naira. And now we're hearing that the CBN has basically decided to extend this incentive program indefinitely. Does that mean it was a success? Do we have numbers to this?
Yes, to some extent, it was a success. If CBN told us that the remittance, especially in the diaspora, was better than it used to be via their own incentives that they brought in. And the CBN government said that sometime last month. And then we're saying, will this policy continue? And now they've extended the policy indefinitely, which is good. But like I said, diaspora remittance has a limit to what it can earn into the country, because most of them are given actually for domestic use to their Nigerian brothers and sisters that are here in the country. So there's a little to what that can do to the economy in terms of adding to the GDP. It might help in also reducing the rate at which some Nigerians suffer. So those that doesn't have jobs that are depending on their relative abroad to send them money. But in terms of its total impact on the economy, the impact will not be as much as what we will have in direct foreign investment. And if you look at the diaspora remittance, most of them are into buying of real estate and others for upkeep for their relative here, which is, if you look at the contribution of real estate to the Nigerian economy, especially to the GDP, is not that much because of a lot of infrastructural challenge. What I think the government should do to continue to attract the diaspora remittance, then at the end of the day, we may see this foreign direct investor comes in, and at the end of the day, that will have an impact in our exchange rate, is to see how they can come up with products from the private sector, especially the bank. They need to come up with products that will attract Nigerians in the diaspora to come out. Fortunately for us, we have the Diaspora Commission. So the bank, especially the bank, we need to partner with this commission to bring in projects that will attract, because most Nigerians will still find a way to send money to their relative without using the direct, because when you look at it, if the exchange rate is good, when you get there and you get 5 naira, but most of them will still prefer to send it through other means whereby their relative will get in and exchange it for a better exchange rate. So the challenge is for us to come up with the policy that will attract the diaspora investment, but let there be a product that will attract them. Not just look at your report that you put in. You saw that stock market actually has the highest in terms of investment because of the liquid nature of it and the exit nature of it, which is easy. So we need to come up with a formula that will attract investment into our country, and that those investments will stay very long, whether from the diaspora or foreign direct investment.
All right, and on that note, Mukhtar Mohammed, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us on News Central Now. All right, and that's the news at this hour. There will, of course, be more news for you. Don't forget that we have African headlines coming your way. There's also Beyond the Continent, which touches base on the big stories outside of Africa. You have sports coming your way. In the Game is also coming, and Business Edge will be taking a trip to the other parts of the continent. There's a lot more coming right here on News Central. I'm Tolulokwe Adelaru Balogun. I'll see you later.